Currently, I'm pursuing my PhD at IIT Hyderabad. Interest in the field of research came from my family itself. My father, who is a MSc graduate, and just because of my father, I pursue my master degree in physics.
What helped you realize that nanotechnology was the right fit for you?
Yeah.
Many researchers struggle with finding the right mentor. Could you share what qualities or characteristics you look for in a guide? Why does having the right mentor in a PhD journey matters?
Actually, for the Indian students, like UGC always says that the rank of the university should be within top 500. So my experience at Taiwan was wonderful. I got an opportunity to work one of the best research institute. PhD journey in Taiwan, especially for the Indian students, is not that smooth because who are working in the similar direction. And I feel your platform Tayog is one of those platform. It's a starting platform in India, which is going to help the candidates for those things.
Hi everyone, welcome to Tayog Podcast channel. As you all know, here we dive in the researcher's life. So today's guest is Firdous Ali, who are currently doing the PhD in IIT Hyderabad. In this podcast, we discuss about his mindset for the research, how he joined the research and the research culture in IIT Hyderabad. Also, he mentioned his experience in the Taiwan. So let's explore his mind in the Tayog Podcast. Welcome to the Tayog Podcast. How are you?
I'm fine, Rishikesh. How are you?
Great. I'm also good. So let's start with your research. So currently, what are you doing in the research?
Currently, I'm pursuing my PhD at IIT Hyderabad at the Department of Chemistry and Material Science and Metallurgical Engineering. Basically, it's a joint. It's not a joint, but it's a interdisciplinary program where we have two different departments, and I'm working on energy storage devices. Mainly, as of now, I am doing my coursework, but after a couple of months, I'll be starting my the original research.
Nice, interesting. So, I think one of the biggest steps
Yeah.
in the researcher journey is choosing the right research area and finding the suitable mentor. So, could you tell us a bit about you approach this decision?
Actually, basically telling that my interest in the field of research came from my family itself. My father, who is a MSc graduate, basically he's a teacher right now. So I developed interest right from the beginning, mainly in physics. And just because of my father, I pursue my master degree in physics back in 2018. And while learning physics, I came across the subjects like condensed matter physics and material science. Before that, also, like during my graduation, I got an opportunity to work in nuclear physics at VECC Kolkata. There, I realized that okay, material science and nanotechnology fields are growing, and yeah, I decided to pursue a second master's in nanotechnology, that is MTech Nanotechnology, from Jamia Millia Islamia. So during the whole journey, I came across like I said, like I worked under two different professors during my masters. It was just a materials and normal characterization and all. So at that particular instant of time, I wasn't aware of the application part of the materials. So during MTech, like I got the opportunity to work on different materials, especially 2D materials, which are good uh, application for the catalysis and energy storage devices. So in the overall journey, I just came across like it doesn't make much difference for a master's student whether they should opt, like they can start with any of the research area. It's never important like okay, if I'm working on a lithium ion battery, does it make sense that I can make like I can do research in other fields? Yes. Like it doesn't make much difference, like we can start from any of the topic, and yeah, and then like we can go for other research area. So basically, what was your question? Can I just I hope I answered your.
What helped you realize that nanotechnology was the right fit for you?
Yeah, all it came from the physics background because whatever the technology we were using in while I was studying nanotechnology, so we came across the question, the subjects like quantum mechanics, material synthesis, characterizations. The whole basics lies in the physics. So I have already learned all those subjects during my MSc physics. And when I came for the application part, then I came across like, okay, there are plenty of applications, and all the applications, like whatever the basic theory lies into the physics. So for me, it was like more interesting, like using the physics knowledge for the technology.
Oh, nice. So that's insightful. Many researchers struggle with the finding the right mentor. Could you share what qualities or characteristic you look for in a guide? Why does having the right mentor in a PhD journey matters?
Okay, so your question is how we can choose the right
Yes,
mentor
yes,
or the guide during the
yes.
PhD. I guess this is the first part of your
Yeah,
question,
yeah.
right? So it depends. Like a person who is pursuing PhD within India, like most of the professors are almost same. Like they ask you to go for rigorous coursework, researches and all, and the whole thing depends upon the personal relation, like the guide and the student or the PhD scholar, how they are able to understand each other. So obviously, this thing all come across when you are already enrolled into the PhD program. But suppose if a person is not enrolled, if a student who is just pursuing master's degree and he or she just want to get into the field of research, so he or she should first look at the research area. Suppose if I'm a guy who wants to work on lithium and battery, so I'll be always looking for researchers, the professors who are already working in that field. Now, the first and the foremost comes the subject area. If the subject area matches, then we generally go for the ranking of the institutions. Like if in India, we can go for several institutes like ISC Bangalore, IITs, NITs, and similarly, if someone is looking for abroad, there are plenty of universities, but that too for the Indian students, like UGC always says that the rank of the university should be within top 500. So this is the second point. Apart from that, the third point which I would like to add, which is although not that important, but I always feel that it's important in terms of Indian environment, that the people in the lab, like suppose your colleagues, if they are not very helpful, the PhD journey is always going to be a bit
Yes.
trouble. But if we have a good colleagues, the seniors and the mentors, apart from the professors, our PhD journey will be like, most likely it is going to be smooth.
Okay.
So I feel like these 3 points are the most important. First, the subject matter. Second, the institute ranking and all. And the third, the environment of the lab. Suppose if you go in a lab where there are like, suppose 20, 30 candidates, and the professor, he or she himself, herself are like full, they are completely busy. So they can't give like much time. So we have to always look for the better one. So it's just kind of trade-off. Suppose the faculty who has already 20 or 30 students, he or she might be one of the like the highest ranking, like the full professor, and like they might have like much experience. But if you see the time which they can give to you is very, very small,
Yeah.
right? But when we go for a professor who has just started his or her lab, then he or she may have like a handful of students, like 4 to 5 students. There, the professor may not be like very much experienced, but the professor will always try his or her best to give to the new students.
Yes.
So it's always a kind of trade-off also. Like when we talk about the environment aspect, remaining the 2 points will be the same. First comes the subject area and the institution ranking.
Yeah.
So basically, tag also plays a role. Since I am doing PhD at IIT Hyderabad, and obviously you can say it's a tag, so
Yes.
it also matters.
Yes. Actually. It's clear that your journey hasn't been without its challenges. You mentioned specific hurdles like choosing the correct research area and adapting the different environments. So, can you tell us more about these challenges, how you handle them?
Okay, So you're talking about the common challenges which or the hurdles which we generally face during the PhD journey, right? Is it during the PhD journey or?
These chal these challenges also you said before coming to IIT Hyderabad you have traveled to Taiwan also. So tell us about your experiences. How was your experiences there?
So my experience at Taiwan was wonderful. I got an opportunity to work one of the best research institute named Academia Sinica back in 2021, and I was there for almost 1 year, 10 months, and it was a good environment. But eventually, I realized that the PhD journey in Taiwan, especially for the Indian students, is not that smooth because in your previous question, I mentioned about the environment. Sometimes we do have the facilities, we do have the tag, we do have the brand, but the environment really plays a major role because if you don't have a coordinating lab mates, the journey is going to be very, very tough. So yeah, that was one of the reason like I didn't wanted to pursue my PhD over there. I was just there for a short term project, and later on I came back to India. I joined. I basically I have tried so many things. So after coming back from Taiwan, I joined BITS Hyderabad in chemical engineering department, and I was just wondering like what exactly I'm doing. So so at that moment also, since like I was a bit confused about like the subject area. I myself belong from the physics background. I did a second master's in MTech Nanotechnology. After that, I worked in thin films, semiconductors in Taiwan, and then back in BITS Hyderabad, I worked in the Department of Chemical Engineering, which you can obviously say it's a completely different subject. It has nothing to do with the basic chemistry and all. But yeah, I was interested in those subjects, and it was a short-term project for a DRDO. I completed that project, and again last year in August 2023, I got an opportunity to join IIT Hyderabad as a JRF, and now I am continuing here as a PhD. So obviously, that the subject area really matters. Suppose as of now, like we are in the age of interdisciplinary sciences, where physics, chemistry, maths, mechanical engineering, computer science, it is nowhere different. Have you ever have you just seen the couple of weeks back the Nobel laureate in physics, the Nobel Prize winner is the one who worked for AIML. So in today's world, everything is like changing. It's the age of interdisciplinary sciences, right? Science and technology. So I feel like because of those things also, like I was a bit confused before getting into IIT Hyderabad MSME department, that is Material Science and Metallurgical Engineering. I got an opportunity from electrical engineering. So the field of materials and the device applications, even the electrical engineering, computer science, material science, chemistry, there are plenty of different departments who are working in the similar fields. So yeah, I was a bit confused about the subjects as well. But again, back into in my mind, it was always that okay, I'm a physicist, and second, I'm a material scientist. So I should always be into my domain. But again, yeah, in IIT Hyderabad, as of now, like I'm also associated with chemistry department. So subject is one of the important thing, and yeah, too much overthinking is also one of the challenges. Like I kept on thinking about going Europe and US. I gave IELTS examination and all, and I spent a lot of time choosing the right and the better because since I left Taiwan, NTU, and Academia Sinica, so I was thinking like I should go somewhere more into the top 100 rank universities. So choosing for a long time is also not a good thing. Sometimes it's always better to like what is the available thing, like you should make the best of whatever we have, right? And the other challenges like includes like the communication gap. Like suppose as of now I'm doing my coursework, I rarely I always meet once in a week with my professor. So sometimes it happens like there is examinations and classes going on. Like I have taken 12 credits in this semester, and I hardly get like time to interact with my professor. So most of the time I interact with my professor during the group meetings. So I feel like, yeah, proper communication should be one of the thing which a student should focus. That it also comes under the challenges, and apart from that, the challenges might be related with the lab environment, the people, the language. Even if we are living in India, uh, suppose I belong from North India, where like we speak Hindi, but you may find a couple of people who may are more comfortable speaking their own native language, and that might be Tamil, Telugu. So sometimes language barrier also plays a role, and similar was the case in Taiwan. Like I was an international candidate over there working on the project, and most of my lab mates were Chinese. So it was really difficult to get a proper connection and understanding, because there was always a language barrier. So these are some of the hurdles. Apart from that, if a candidate have already chosen the correct research area, I don't feel like there should be other challenges. But other challenges might come. Like suppose we are working on a topic where, suppose I am working on a lithium ion battery or supercapacitor. I'm not getting a desired value of a specific capacitance or energy density, power density, and all. So I keep on working. I may work for almost a year, and later, after a year, I feel or I realize that, okay, this is something which I was doing wrong. So these are some of the challenges. So I feel like we can rectify these challenges like through proper communication, and we should also feel to connect with the people um, who are working in the similar direction. And I feel your platform Tayog is one of those platform. It's a starting platform in India which is going to help the candidates for those things, right? So suppose if I'm working on a supercapacitor, so if I'm stuck with some of the problem which may not be solved from my mindset or whatever the way I'm choosing, so those things I can like post in your platform and get connected with the other people, right? So these are some of the common challenges like we can face, and obviously I feel like Tayo can help us for solving all these issues.
That's nice. Can you have you ever compared about the research culture in Taiwan and India?
The research culture in Taiwan and India is completely different, because not completely different, but yeah, majority of the aspect is different. Like the way of working, like in Taiwan, I feel like the time for a PhD graduate, it takes around like 5 to 7 years, the average duration. Whereas in India, you may get your degree within 4 years, and the work pressure is also different. In India, we don't have like a much work pressure, but in Taiwan, like working 12 to 14 hours a day is a common practice. So you have to really work hard each and every single day. Each and every single minute has to be utilized. Whereas in India, it's in some of the lab there is such kind of environment, but I don't feel it's too harsh. Like it's a moderate. Since some of my colleagues says like, okay, we are getting so much pressure from our professors and colleagues, but yeah, when I compare myself from IIT Hyderabad to NTU, Taiwan, and Academia Sinica, Taiwan, like as I mentioned, the situation is quite different. It's quite different. Like the work environment is not the same. Like we have to work almost 13 to 14 hours a day, and obviously the language barrier is one of the major aspect, like which we all have to suffer. The time of graduation, like suppose average graduation time is around 5.5 to 7 years. It's almost 6 to 7 years average graduation time. Whereas in India, most of the candidates graduates before 5 year or at the end of 5 year. I feel there are few people or the few labs like within IIT Hyderabad also, they may take time, but sometimes it is like the subject area which is really sluggish. Suppose if someone is working in the field of biotechnology or related with something like wet chemistry kind of thing, where they need to go for cell culture and all, so the environment and the other aspects plays a major role. And to work in certain area, it really takes a time. So these are some of the matters, like some of the points where I feel like, yeah, this makes a difference as compared to Taiwan and India. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I think our listeners will appreciate, especially those starting their journey, adapting to new environment is never easy. So now I want to ask that mentorship is one of the most impactful parts of research career. You mentioned that you would like to discuss mentorship experiences on the podcast. So can you share any particular advice that help you through difficult times?
So your question is regarding mentorship. That am I
Yes,
able,
yes.
am I willing to provide a
Uh,
mentorship or not?
Means to
Yeah,
say
I feel like,
how mentorship is
yeah,
important in your research career.
obviously, like in your previous question only, I said like the major challenges which we face during our research work, and sometimes we get stuck into
Yeah.
some problems which may not be solved by our mentality or our approach. Sometimes we go and try to reach our professor, but sometimes professors are also quite busy. Like as I mentioned, even within IIT Hyderabad, like there are a couple of labs where more than 20 students in a lab they
Yeah.
are working. A single professor is handling around 20 students, and it really becomes like difficult for each and every individual to get in touch with the professor. Like obviously they get in touch with the professor, but the professor can't provide each and every single minute,
Yeah.
right? Like they have to look for so
Yes.
many students. So I feel like taking mentorship from other people, like you can just name it as a collaboration
Yeah.
as well, be it through any platform like ResearchGate or your platform like Tayog. I feel like mentorship really helps because um, every individual have its own limitation, right? We have a particular amount of information, particular amount of knowledge,
Yeah.
experiences, and all. But when we are dealing with the interdisciplinary research, like a chemistry guy working in something like device related things, he or she may not be able to solve the problems related
Yes.
with the circuitry, right? So he or she has to go and take the advice from the mentors who has got the background in electrical engineering or something like that,
Yes.
electronics engineering,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, so mentorship is really important.
Yeah, I got it.
And through all this platform, I feel like people have already been doing the mentorship related
Yeah.
things, right?
That's fantastic advice. So mentorship is a crucial, but funding and publishing
Crucial.
also weigh heavily on researchers. So do you have any tips or insights from your experiences securing funding or publishing your work?
Okay, publishing. So for publishing any kind of research, I feel like you should be always associated with any lab, right? Like a lab where you have a mentor, you have a guide, a professor. Like basically, you should have a affiliation of a research institute or a educational institute, and then whatever the work you do, the whole ideas and all, it's all come under the single
Yeah.
professor. So whatever we do, the research can be treated for like it can be considered for either like a publishing research paper, or sometimes the professor is also interested in going for
Yeah.
patents if it is like a very novel and unique idea. If some technology can be commercialized, so people also go for patent. So yeah, so securing funding, like your question, I feel like your question is not completely clear to me. Can you just
Okay,
repeat
I
it?
will repeat it. Like I asked, like, uh, Any tips regarding the securing funding?
Okay, so whenever you are talking about securing funding, it means that a student who is looking for doing his or her research would be looking for funded PhD projects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, if you talk about in majority of the cases, like almost 80 to 90% of the cases where a student is willing to do a PhD, it's already associated with some kind of funding. Like in India, there are a couple of examinations like GATE, CSIR, NET, UGC NET, and plenty of other examinations like I feel JEST. JEST is one of the exam which is generally conducted for physics. So there are a couple of central institutions really conduct those examinations. If some students are able to clear those examinations and they get the PhD positions along with the funding, but in India we only get around like 37,000 for a JRF, and it's 42,000 for SRF, that is Senior Research Fellow. Whereas in abroad, most of the project is always associated with some kind of funding, right?
Yeah.
The whole PhD project is always associated with the funding, and that too depends upon places to places, universities to universities. So the major tip which I can give, like for securing funding, is that if a student is willing to do PhD in abroad, he or she should always focus for the depth of the subjects. Apart from that, IELTS, TOEFL is some of the examinations. GRE, Graduate Record Examination, is the examination which are like quite helpful for like these are the examinations which will really help a student to secure those kind of fundings, and eventually they can get into one of the best research institutes in abroad, or the best universities. Whereas when we compare this situation in India, IELTS, TOEFL or GRE is not that mandatory, but we do have the examinations like I already mentioned, UGC NET, CSIR NET, GATE. These are some of the examinations like we should focus on. So it's always not necessary, like you said about publishing paper also, right? So before getting into the research area, it's never a compulsion for students to publish a paper. So suppose if you look for a abroad, if you have a paper in your MTech or MSc, it's always an advantage. But in India, suppose if you have a paper, but if you don't have if you don't have a GATE or NET, I don't think so. It is going to be it is not going to be like that helpful. So like whatever the answer I have given, like it's based on the specific area. A set of answer which I have given for India, the students who are looking for doing their PhD in India is different, and the students who are looking for PhD in abroad, it's completely different. But the common point is that you should be able to understand your subject area. You should have like a depth of understanding, be it any subject, be it biology or like chemistry, mechanical engineering, computer science, anything. You should be like really focus about the subject area, and apart from that, like you should be also look for the new things, whatever the new things which is being done. Like you should go through reading the research papers and all, what kind of new research work is going on. So we should be updated as well. And you talk about some other thing like securing funding. It's not always the it's not always the examinations. Examinations are some of the like preliminary criteria. Like you should have IELTS, TOEFL. It's a preliminary criteria that doesn't ensure, right? But it always give a plus point. Apart from that, GRE, it will give a plus point. But there are other several documentations also, like a research proposal. Apart from that, like you should have SOP, cover letter, or somewhere they ask for statement of purpose. All these are related with the research. So if we are looking for applying in any kind of institution, they do provide some information like, okay, this is the position and you have to apply before this deadline. So they always ask for a cover letter or SOP or research proposal. So you have to read the topics and like go through the research, whatever that particular professor is doing. So from those papers, those published papers and the research direction, we have to think about it and make a good proposal. So these are some of the tips. Yeah.
So let's come to your closing point. Like, this has been such a valuable conversation. Thank you for sharing your journey and many practical insights with us today. So before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or advice for listeners navigating their research path?
Of course, yeah. Since we are on a podcast of Tayog, I feel like now it's time for our viewers and the listeners to go for registering in Tayog, because this is one of our Indian platform where I feel like whatever the people who are doing from the past like couple of years, like they have made Google Scholar, ResearchGate, and blah blah, so many research platforms, and those are the places like where we get like Urexes also, like we get so many informations regarding the PhD positions and all. So all these kind of informations will be shared on Tayog also in time to come.
Yeah.
I hope, right? Yeah. So just be in touch with Tayog, and I feel like Tayog will be providing valuable informations apart from mentoring and providing the guidance. We'll also come with the job openings and the project openings, right? Yeah. So
sure.
we always touch in Tayog, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you for promoting Tayog on the podcast.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time to Tayog Podcast. Your story will surely resonate with so many our listeners. Thanks.
Thank you so much.